I got the feeling that she was probably taking advantage of the system. That she was perfectly able to provide, but didn't do it purposefully because she was able to get the free rent. Hey everyone, Chris Bounce here, live with the Invested Agents podcast. We'll get back to the journey, my real estate history journey and deal journey that I started when I first started this podcast. I guess a few weeks ago, or I guess it was a little over a month ago. Today, I wanted to talk about I've already talked about the first deal I ever did. It was in San Antonio, Texas. I was in college, bought this deal. It was a wholesale deal. Ended up buying it for like $15,000 or so, and wholesaling it through a JV partnership I had with my mentor. And that was a really good deal. And then the very second deal did all on my own. In Waco, Texas. It was a deal that really should have never happened because it was on the code compliance list as to be demolished. Not the house, but the structure in the back, like a detached garage. But the reason why it never should have been a deal is that had been demolished like months ago. It was just still on the list, thankfully for me, because when I pulled the list, it was still there and I was able to reach out to the owner. And then the third deal, my first lease option, back to San Antonio. It was a lease option deal. It was a pre-foreclosure deal that we actually turned into a lease option, rented it out for a couple of years before the tenants moved out. They didn't exercise their option and ended up leaving, and I think they broke their lease too, but thankfully they left. We didn't have to evict them, but didn't have to do a make ready, and we sold it, made some money there. And then that brings me to the fourth deal, and that is back to San Antonio. So at the time of this deal, I'm still in College Station and still in college, haven't quite graduated yet. We still own the third deal, so I haven't sold that yet. It's leased out, and so we get here, and because rental properties really were the big goal anyway. And that's why I got involved in real estate, was to build wealth and passive income, and you do that through rental properties. You don't do it through flipping. You don't do it through wholesaling. So here we are, get this deal, and it has a tenant already in there. The tenant's a Section 8 tenant. And we're talking with the owner. It was a pre-foreclosure situation as well, and the time is like down to the wire before the auction, and ultimately end up pulling a little hat or a little trick out of my hat that my mentor had taught me. And he was like, "Hey, if you really want a deal and you've got it locked up and you really want it, but there's not enough time to get things together before the auction, and you don't want to go to auction, then because you don't want to risk someone else bidding up the price, then what you do is you just do a temporary restraining order that temporarily postpones the foreclosure, and then you can finish your due diligence and close the following week or whenever." So that's actually what we did, and ended up buying this property. Has a tenant already in there, and this tenant was a Section 8 tenant. I knew about Section 8. I didn't really know much about them other than it's guaranteed money, right? Guaranteed money. But I didn't realize that it's guaranteed money as long as the property is to code and proper guidelines that the housing authority requires. Because Section 8, that program definitely doesn't want slumlords renting to these low-income families, and rightfully so, because that's probably what would happen if they didn't have those guidelines. But I'm young and dumb, and to be completely honest, I didn't know that. But regardless, we got a good deal. So they were paying. It was guaranteed money. It was worth it. Took a couple months to get set up with housing and started getting the rent check. And then I don't know exactly the timeline, but it probably less than a year later. But we got a note from housing, or maybe the tenant called us first, and then we got the note, and basically said that, "Hey, look, we can't pay you anymore because the house, we went out and inspected it and it failed." and you need to fix these issues. Now, probably, I don't know for sure, but probably the tenant could have just stayed there and required us to make the repairs. In which case, I wasn't really in the best position to do that, both living afar, not having the contractor resources, and also, I would need to fund that. But because a lot of our money actually is in the seller rental property. So thankfully, they actually just move out. And it was an interesting experience with Section 8 because it's free money, but getting a firsthand experience of at least this particular family, it was a lady, I think she had like 5 kids or so. And she was a nice lady, but I don't know. Actually, I'll just kind of skip that because I don't know. It'll go back. I got the feeling that she's probably taking advantage of the system. That she was perfectly able to provide, but didn't do it purposefully because she was able to get the free rent. That was the feeling I got, but you never know. In any case, she was nice, and thankfully she didn't dig down and make us fix her repairs before we get our rent checks back. So she just moved out. So at this point, we just cleaned the property up. Actually, a buddy of mine who was in the Marine Corps at the time, he was down and visiting. So I was like, "Hey man, can you go help me clean this house up? 'Cause I gotta." I want to put a sign out and get it sold. We're going to sell it as is. And he did. He did construction in high school with his parent or with his dad and his dad's company. But when he gets there, it's like, this place is disgusting. It looks like your typical a home that has been rented for a while, and they just one day just left. They left it trashed. It was already pretty gross. With them just living there, because that's just the way they lived, and then the house itself was just not in the best condition. But in any case, he helped me out, kind of complained the whole time, and we get everything cleaned out, and I put a sign in the yard, and I think it was this one where I put those used car the used car lot streamers, those little flag streamers that you see hanging from poles. I put that out to create tons of attention, probably some balloons. I did all this crazy stuff to get it marketed, and put some bandit signs around the neighborhood, and then boom, got a wholesale buyer that thankfully came in and bought the property. So I was very happy about that. It was a good experience, being the first experience with Section 8. Buying the property, but I'd say that the mistake that I made, well, 2 mistakes. One was I originally bought the property subject to, and then I refinanced through a private lender. So the one mistake I made when I bought it subject to is I didn't change the address to the insurance to the lender's escrow account. So whenever I bought it subject to, and we ended up selling the property or refinancing or whatever, when that escrow account got paid out back to the borrower, which was the previous owner, it didn't go to me, and it should have. I had power of attorney. I had the authorization to release information. She'd already agreed to all this on the front hand, but that should have gone to me, and it didn't. It was a couple $1,000s. It wasn't a huge thing, but I'm 22 years old, so a couple $1,000, that's a lot of money. And I was like, damn it. There was no way I was getting that back. No way. And I actually called her, and she's like, I already spent it. And that's probably true. So second mistake is buying rentals and holding rentals. They're great, amazing wealth building strategies, but really, I should have wholesaled the deal to begin with, or sold it to another investor, because when you take on a lot of risk holding rental properties, and if the tenant stops paying or their Section 8 stops paying, and you got to flip the mortgage, and if you have to do a repair or make ready, that's you. It's all on you as the landlord. You got to be able to afford that. And so that was a mistake that thankfully that part didn't burn me. I only got lost out on the escrow account for the mortgage, but Just looking back, it was definitely a risky deal for my position at the time, which I was still in college. I didn't have a job. So here I am, senior in college, and I've got two rental properties. But that was the fourth deal that I did. So I did 4 deals my first year in real estate. I didn't know really anything other than what I was taught. Knocking doors, pre-foreclosures, and that's all I did. Just knocking doors, pre-foreclosures. And I was hungry, willing, able to do it, sending out like handwriting postcards and skip tracing people, calling them, and then knocking on doors every single weekend. That's what I did. Be sure to tune in next time.